After 5 years of humiliation, I discovered an incredible truth that transformed my life forever. Brian sat in his cramped garage, surrounded by the faint smell of motor oil and rust. His hands, perpetually smeared with grease, trembled slightly as he tightened the last bolt on a vintage Chevy. It gleamed under the flickering overhead light, a beacon of hope in his otherwise gray existence, filled with echoes of laughter that once mocked him. 5 long years of failures. Those years felt like a lifetime tied to the memory of losing his job at the factory. He often wondered how normal people managed life, gliding through it with ease while he felt like he was trudging through mud. Loneliness clung to him like another layer of skin. Even his stutter, a relic from high school, haunted him, dragging forth memories of being pushed down on the playground, isolated from those who called themselves friends. All his ambitions seemed like distant whispers he wasn't meant to hear. Yet, somehow, in the heart of his despair, he discovered a spark. The cars were his escape. Restoring them became his passion, his salvation. His mother, a retired schoolteacher with eyes that sparkled with undying love, always encouraged him, urging him to consider turning his passion into a livelihood. "Brian, you've got a gift," she would say with a warm smile, a small hand on his shoulder, providing a much-needed anchor amidst the storm of his insecurities. But doubts stormed in. The townsfolk knew him as the washed-up factory worker, not the budding entrepreneur. His brother, Darren, a successful attorney in the city, scoffed at the thought. "You think you can just fix up junk and make a living? Family comes first, Brian. You need to escape your dreams," he'd say, dismissive as he looked down from his polished life. Brian sighed, feeling small again. He almost abandoned it all. That is, until the town meeting came. The moment changed everything. Standing in the spotlight, ready to share his dreams of a car restoration side business, memories of laughter rushed back. When the punch of ridicule hit, he could feel the flames of humiliation igniting once more. His stutter flared, the words blurred together, and he crumbled beneath the weight of their scorn. But as painful as that moment was, it gave rise to something unexpected. A confrontation with Darren back at home tore open old wounds. Fights over family loyalty versus personal dreams erupted into a war of words. It forced Brian to confront not only his brother's judgment, but also the buried emotions of love and fear between them. "Why can't you just support me?" Brian yelled, his voice trembling with raw emotion. "You don't understand how hard this is for me. Because you're dreaming too big, Brian. You think you can just..." Darren's voice faded, and for a split second, their eyes connected, haunting regrets flashing through unspoken words. Before they could dissect it further, the local car show loomed, a chance for redemption. The town, known for its struggles, had memories wrapped in the scent of gasoline and burnt rubber. Surprisingly, supporters emerged. Fellow townsfolk, once skeptical, whispered encouragements. Just as Brian drove out his restored Chevy under the sun, anticipation blending with anxiety, he felt a familiar tightness in his chest. His heart pounded as he gazed out at a sea of intrigued faces, especially when his eyes landed on Darren's. The tension in the air thickened as he realized the weight of all those years stacked against him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Brian's heart raced, a fire igniting within. Was this his moment to share his truth? Or would he retreat into shadows again? As he opened his mouth to speak, he found himself hesitating, but the crowd's anxious buzz surrounded him, waiting. All eyes were on him, ready for whatever came next. Would this be the turning point he yearned for? Brian drew in a shaky breath, the warmth of the sun flooding his skin while the cool breeze brushed against his face like a gentle nudge. The crowd's murmurs felt like waves crashing against his heart, louder and faster with every passing second. Each face stared back, filled with intrigue, and something that flickered. Was it hope? He swallowed hard, wiping his clammy hands on his jeans. Here, among strangers and some familiar faces, he had to summon the courage he often thought was buried deep within him. The vintage Chevy behind him symbolized not just a project, but a part of himself he'd almost forgotten, the part ready to rise from the ashes. As memories of laughter and ridicule thrummed through his head, he gripped the microphone tighter. "Thank you all for being here today," he started, his voice steady despite the quaking in his chest. "I want to share something that goes beyond just cars." He hesitated again as a few quiet gasps pierced through the crowd. Someone in the back shouted, "We're listening." That small encouragement acted as fuel, sparking a fire in his heart. "I've spent the last 5 years in a fog of self-doubt. I lost my job, lost connections with family," he confessed, his voice vulnerable and raw. "But more than that, I lost myself. It took pain, humiliation, and a big push from people who didn't believe in me to uncover a truth I'd been blind to. The truth is, I matter. My dreams matter." A ripple of silence followed, eyes wide, hesitantly absorbing the weight of his words. Brian continued, his voice gaining strength. "Today isn't just about showcasing this car. It's about showing up for ourselves, our dreams, and for each other. If you've ever felt stuck or alone, I want you to know you're not. I thought I was just fixing cars, but what I really learned was how to fix myself," he added, the revelation washing over him like a cool summer rain. A light chuckle broke the tension. It came from a woman in the front row, her eyes glistening with something profoundly real. "You go, Brian. Keep going." And at that moment, it was as if everyone in the crowd leaned in closer. Each pair of eyes mirrored understanding, nodding in acknowledgement. Darren seemed surprised, eyes narrowed but softened, urging him to continue. "Cars, they need love and effort to run right, just like we do," Brian said, emboldened. "Don't let the opinions of others stall your engine. And don't be scared to hit the brakes and reflect. Without that, we can't steer our lives in the direction we want." Hope stirred in the crowd, almost palpable. Brian looked at them, and for the first time, he didn't see fear or judgment. Instead, he saw something rare: companionship. Their energy wrapped around him, fueling his confidence. He took a step forward, leaning into the moment. "Today, I'm calling on all of you. Let's unite to build a brighter future together, starting with a hopeful dream. Let us support each other in this journey." The audience erupted in applause, an overwhelming wave of sound crashing over him, filling the void he had felt for so long. Brian took a moment, breathing deeply as he soaked in their positive energy. A smile crept onto his face, brightening his weary features. "And guess what? I'm officially starting my restoration business. I'm not just Brian the factory worker anymore. I'm Brian the restorer." The cheers reached a fever pitch around him, drowning out any lingering whispers of doubt. This was his moment, and it felt incredible. But even in the midst of his triumph, a shadow loomed over him: the memory of Darren's skeptical look, and the weight of uncertainty loomed in the corner of his mind. How would Darren react once the moment faded? Would his brother still see him as a joke? The cheer of the crowd felt as if it could quell those fears, but uncertainty danced just out of reach. As Brian basked in the crowd's warmth, he couldn't shake the nagging thought: had he truly shifted the tides, or was this just another fleeting high? Would he find the strength to keep going when the world tried to pull him back down? The uncertainty of his next step lingered in the air, as electric as the moment itself. All he knew was that he was ready to fight for his dreams. But would it be enough? The applause was still ringing in his ears when Brian stepped off the makeshift stage, adrenaline pumping through him. The cheers had been a bomb, yet the reality of what came next sent a shiver down his spine. He scanned the crowd, faces bright with encouragement, but one face stood out: Darren's. His brother stood at the back, arms crossed, a wall of skepticism. Did he believe in this change? Brian's heart thumped as he made his way through the sea of well-wishers, each pat on the back filling him with warmth that contrasted sharply with the coolness emanating from Darren. "Nice speech, little brother," Darren replied, his tone flat as Brian approached. But do you really think this little car show is going to change anything? The smile that had spread across Brian's face faltered. It's not just about the car. It's about more than that. I'm not who I was. I'm ready to become something new. Just like that? You think a few words and a shiny paint job are going to fix everything? Darren scoffed. Life doesn't work that way. Brian felt the sting of disappointment wash over him. I'm trying to build something here. A business. A life. Can you support me, even a little? Darren's expression hardened. Support isn't just blind faith, Brian. I want to see it first. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Brian's heart heavy. It stung more than he expected. The crowd around him faded, laughter and chatter becoming a dull hum. Every cheer, every smile, now felt hollow as if they were celebrating someone else. He wandered over to the Chevy, running a hand over the cool, gleaming surface. Just like you, huh? He whispered to the car. Shiny on the outside, but does that make it worthy? The moment of solitude was shattered when a voice called out behind him. Wow, that's a beauty. Brian turned to find the woman from the crowd standing beside him, eyes bright. You really had them captivated up there. I've never heard someone speak like that, so openly. Thanks, he replied, forcing a smile. I really want to make a difference. To show that I'm not just a joke. She nodded, a knowing expression crossing her face. We all have our battles, don't we? I'm Emma, by the way. Brian, he said, extending a hand, feeling the warmth of her grip. You really think it was inspiring? Absolutely. I'm hoping to start a community workshop, helping people learn to fix cars like this, she said, gesturing to the Chevy. People who feel lost. I feel like they need to know they're not alone in this. Wow, that sounds amazing, Brian said, feeling a flicker of hope. Like a place to heal? Exactly. A place where we can share our stories along with our skills. You should come help, Brian. You have the passion. The idea sparked something in him. Could he really? Brian didn't know if he felt ready to take that leap. Yet, the warmth of Emma's belief ignited a flicker of determination. Maybe I would love to help. But I'm still figuring things out, he admitted, looking at her hopefully. Figuring it out is the first step. You're already on your way. Emma smiled, her infectious energy pulling him in. Brian's gaze shifted beyond her to where Darren stood, still not far off. An ember of defiance sparked in him. Why wait for approval? Why not seize this moment? Okay, let us do it. I'll be a part of that community workshop. Emma beamed, her excitement infectious, igniting a fire in him that he thought had burned out long ago. Maybe Darren would come around. Maybe he wouldn't. But for the first time, Brian didn't feel like he needed to wait for anyone's validation. He was ready to roll. Despite the clouds of doubt swirling in the back of his mind, he felt free. As he spoke more with Emma about plans for the workshop, a sense of possibility surged within him. A shadow flitted across his thoughts. Would he really have the courage to follow through when the doubts resurfaced? But amidst the rising excitement of this new venture, uncertainty lingered in the air. A tug-of-war between hope and fear was just beginning. How long could he harness this newfound strength before the doubts pulled him back down? Brian stood next to the Chevy, his heart racing as he exchanged ideas with Emma. The uncertainty that had threatened to envelop him began to dissipate, replaced by the flickering flame of purpose. We could set up the workshop this weekend, Emma suggested, her hands animatedly gesturing as she spoke. I can gather some people from the community, and we can start with the basics. Basics, Brian murmured, envisioning beginners with eager faces, hands covered in grease. Yeah, that could work. Teach them how to change tires, oil, maybe even small repairs. It was a chance to channel his passion into something tangible, something that could uplift others. Exactly, she said, her enthusiasm contagious. And who knows, maybe it leads to something bigger. I dream of creating a space where people can come together, not just to fix cars, but to find support, a family of sorts. He felt a pull in his chest at her words, something he hadn't felt in ages. That's beautiful, Emma. It makes me think of my dad. He was a mechanic, always working on something in the garage. I used to help him out, but after, well, everything his voice trailed off. Memory swept in, bittersweet. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. It's tough. I lost my dad too. I know that feeling of struggling to connect with who you were, especially after loss. They shared a moment of silence, the bond between them deepening. Brian took a deep breath. What if we set up a first meeting this weekend? Just an open invite. Let people drop by and see what it's about? Emma's face lit up. Yes, we can use the lot over there. She pointed to an empty space near where the car show had been. We can set up some chairs, maybe a couple of tables. Okay, let us do it, he said, determination replacing doubt. As they dove deeper into planning, excitement bubbled within him. He felt alive again, like he had a purpose. But just beneath it, a nagging voice whispered doubts. Would anyone really show up? Later, as they wrapped up their conversation, Brian noticed Darren still watching from a distance. The skepticism was still palpable, hanging in the air like smoke. He couldn't help but wonder what it would take for his brother to believe in him again. Brian, you good? Emma asked, catching the flicker of doubt crossing his face. Yeah, just thinking about family. My brother, he's hard on me. But I need to prove to him this isn't just a phase. Emma placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You're not alone in this. Take it one step at a time. The right people will see what you're doing, I promise. That night, Brian lay in bed, the ceiling fan swirling overhead, thoughts racing. Emma's confidence fueled him yet again, yet Darren's disapproval lingered. Could he truly stand tall and face his fears, or would he crumble under the weight of expectations? The next morning, he woke with a feverish determination. He grabbed his phone and sent out an invitation for the workshop. He wanted to change lives even if he had his brother to convince. As day turned to night, the reality of the upcoming workshop sat heavy on his chest. What if no one came? What if it all turned into another embarrassing failure? With those thoughts swirling in his mind, he felt genuine trepidation for the first time since deciding to put himself out there. But there was more at stake than just Brian's ego. This was about healing, for both him and others. Suddenly, a text chimed. It was Emma. Don't forget to breathe. You've got this. Can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. That text sparked a nervous grin across his face. Maybe this was about more than fixing cars. Maybe it was about fixing lives, including his own. Tomorrow held promise, the promise of change if only he could take that step forward. But in the shadows, doubt lingered. As he drifted off to sleep, the question echoed in his mind. Would he have the courage to let his vulnerability shine, or would he retreat into the safety of the past? The day dawned bright and clear, the sun streaming through Brian's window as if signaling a new beginning. He woke early, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Today was the day. The workshop. His palms were a little sweaty, and he could taste the tension in the air. He hurried through breakfast, barely tasting the toast as thoughts swirled like leaves caught in a gust. What if no one came? Would everyone just see him as the failed brother? He shook his head, pushing the thoughts aside. This was about more than proving anything to Darren. It was about community and the chance to share what he loved. With a final glance in the mirror, he grabbed his jacket and headed out the door. The drive to the lot was filled with a mix of optimism and dread. As he parked the Chevy, he spotted Emma setting up tables with a few volunteers. Their energy was infectious, laughter lifting the potential weight of the day. Look, just like we planned, Emma called, gesturing to the colorful signs they had made, each one promising free workshops for anyone wanting to learn. He approached, a nervous smile creeping up. You really pulled this together. Of course, she grinned. And look over there. She pointed to a growing cluster of people, some old friends of hers and a couple of curious locals. Brian's heart jumped. This was happening. As people started to trickle in, he felt the energy shift. Faces turned toward him with a mixture of curiosity and interest. They were here, and they were ready to learn. Brian took a deep breath, grounding himself. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Brian, and today we're going to dive into some basic car maintenance. It's going to be fun and hopefully really helpful. He explained with animated gestures, just as he had with Emma. Their smiles turned into nods of understanding, and he could feel their encouragement in every glance. He started with tire changing, showcasing the process with an old tire he had set up nearby, and soon hands were raised, questions flying. "Why do you want to do this?" one young boy asked, his face streaked from playing in the dirt. Brian paused, taken aback. "Because I want to help," he said, his voice steadier than he expected. "My dad taught me this stuff. It's more than fixing cars, it's about finding strength in ourselves." Emma beamed at him from the back, her eyes glistening with proud recognition. Brian continued, teaching techniques and sharing stories that spilled from his heart like the oil he often joked about. He felt light, the weight of past failures lifting, lighter with every moment. But then his gaze drifted toward the edge of the crowd. Darren stood there, arms crossed, a skeptical frown etched on his face. Brian's heart sank a little. He wanted so badly for his brother to see this, to understand that he was trying to change, to make something meaningful. But would he ever believe in him again? Before he could dwell on it, a voice rang out. "Brian, can I try?" A young woman stepped forward, oil-stained hands raised in ready enthusiasm. "Absolutely. Come on up." He stepped aside, feeling a surge of warmth in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, this was working. Laughter and chatter thrummed in the air, drowning out his worries. As the hours passed, smiles spread, and new friendships formed under the sun. Yet, whenever Brian caught a glimpse of Darren, uncertainty clawed at his stomach. As the workshop drew to a close, everyone gathered around for a group photo. Emma stood beside him, her sparkling smile encouraging him, even pushing him toward growth. Just as the camera clicked, he caught Darren's eye. For a fleeting moment, he saw something soften in his brother's expression. But before he could interpret it, laughter erupted from the group. Just like that, the moment passed. "See?" Emma nudged him, excitement swirling in her words. "You did it. People want to learn from you." In that chaos of joy and doubt, Brian couldn't shake the lingering question. Would Darren ever let him in, ever acknowledge the change he was trying to embrace? Later that night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Brian received a text from Darren. It was simple but heavy. "We need to talk." His heart raced again, this time in fear. Would their conversation lead to understanding or further divide? Brian stared at his phone, feeling the weight of uncertainty settling in once more. The journey was just beginning, and he wasn't sure where it would lead. Would he find the courage to face his brother's expectations? Brian paced the living room, his mind racing. The glow from his phone lit up his anxious face. "We need to talk." Those words spun like a pendulum, swinging between hope and dread. It felt like an eternity since he and Darren last connected, and every moment without communication deepened the chasm that had already formed between them. "Maybe it's just about the workshop," he mumbled to himself, but a small voice deep down whispered that it could be something more. He glanced out the window, watching the stars blink into view. It wasn't long before he heard a familiar sound: tires crunching on gravel. Brian's heart beat in tandem with his breath. He rushed to the door. This was it. When he opened it, there stood Darren, his figure outlined by the porch light. There was no mistaking the tension in the air. Brian gestured for him to come inside, and they sat at opposite ends of the couch like two strangers forced to share a space. "Hey," Darren started, his voice low. "Hey," Brian replied, the lump in his throat growing bigger. An awkward silence filled the room, heavy as lead. Brian felt like the boy he used to be, scared to speak but desperate for connection. What would Darren say? Was there a flicker of acceptance behind his hesitant demeanor? Finally, Darren broke the silence. "I saw you today at the workshop." Brian's heart leaped. "Yeah? You came?" "I had to." Darren shifted uncomfortably, eyes dropping to the floor. "Mom told me about it. Said you were doing something good." "Good?" It felt strange to hear it spoken aloud. "I hope so. I mean, I just wanted to share what our dad taught us. Help people out." A shadow crossed Darren's face. "You weren't just helping people, Brian. You were trying to help yourself." There it was. The truth laid bare. Brian's stomach churned. "Yeah, maybe. But isn't that part of healing? I just wanted to find myself again." The corners of Darren's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but they reverted to a frown. Look, I've been hard on you. I guess I thought I could just erase what happened. I forgot you're still my brother, you know? Brian swallowed hard. I've made a lot of mistakes. I get it if you don't want to talk to me. Darren rubbed the back of his neck. You're wrong. I want to be there for you. But you need to want it too. Are you ready to talk about the past? A wave of warmth surged through Brian. He nodded, though doubt still whispered in his mind. I want to, but I'm scared. I don't want to drag you down. Darren's expression softened. It's okay to be scared. But I can't walk this path without you. We have to deal with what happened together. The room filled with an unexpected hope. Could this be the beginning of their healing? Could Darren truly understand how they had both lost their way? The moment hung in the air as Brian exhaled deeply, feeling lighter as uncertainty slipped away. Okay, let us do it. Let us talk. As the brothers began to share their feelings, the door creaked open to something unexpected, a new chapter of vulnerability and connection. The weight of Brian's past felt unsure, but the thrill of shared honesty ignited something new. Just then, Brian's phone buzzed again. It was Emma. Are you free to talk? I have something important to share. Brian exchanged a glance with Darren, curiosity glimmering in his eyes. What could Emma possibly have to say? Brian felt a rush of conflicting emotions as he stared at the screen, the words from Emma hanging like a lifeline in front of him. He should have focused on the conversation with Darren, but his mind raced with worry. Emma had always been a pillar of support, but she had also been the one to witness the depths of his struggles. Her message could mean so many things, and the tight grip in his chest returned. What's up? Darren's voice pulled him back, a tinge of urgency lacing his tone. Is everything okay? It's Emma, Brian replied, trying to keep his voice steady. She wants to talk. Darren's brow furrowed, as if piecing things together. About what? I don't know. She sounded serious. Brian felt the weight of the moment. They had just begun to open up to each other, and now this new variable loomed over the room. Should you call her back? Darren asked, concern etched into his features. Yeah, I guess. Brian put his phone down. But I want to be present for this talk with you first. It feels important. Darren nodded, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. I understand, but if she's reaching out, something's on her mind. Maybe it's about what you shared. If it's related to your healing process, it might help to hear her out. Brian took a breath, feeling the walls around him tighten. You really think so? Yeah, I do, Darren said, his voice steady. If she cares about you, she wouldn't just text for nothing. Apprehension bubbled inside Brian, and he could feel the weight of his choices crash over him like a wave. Okay, I'll call her. He picked up the phone again, his fingers hovering over the screen. As he dialed, Darren leaned forward, capturing Brian's attention without words. This was a moment neither of them could afford to waste. The ring echoed in the room. It felt like stepping onto a precipice. Hey, is now all right? Emma's voice was like a soft blanket, familiar and warm, calming Brian's fears momentarily. Yeah, I'm here, he managed to say. What is going on? Can we talk in person? It's about something that happened recently, Emma replied, her tone serious yet hesitant. Sure. Where? Meet me at the cafe in about 20 minutes? I think you'll want to be there. He sensed urgency in her voice, something that leached into his veins, igniting worry. Okay, I'll be there. He hung up, turning to Darren. Emma wants to meet, Brian said, a nervous buzz still lingering in his voice. Darren straightened up as if grounding himself. Want me to come with? Brian hesitated. I don't know if that's a good idea. It might be something personal. Or it could be about you or about both of us, Darren insisted. I do find it hard to handle you two together after all that happened. I know it's messy, but I'm here for you. Touched by Darren's earnestness, Brian felt tears prick at the edges of his eyes. He put a hand on Darren's shoulder. Thanks. Really. It's just, could we have this one moment to ourselves first? Let me see what she has to say. Darren's expression softened. Got it. Just know I'm here when you get back. As Brian stepped outside, he drew a deep breath. The breeze tingled on his skin, a refreshing reminder that change was possible. His heart raced, not just from nerves, but with a budding sense of possibility. What could Emma want to share? Would it lead to more wounds opening or, perhaps, healing? His footsteps quickened. The cafe was just a few blocks away, and with every stride, he felt as though a chapter of his past was closing. A new story, full of potential and uncertainty, was about to begin. But as he turned the corner, another thought crossed his mind. What if this news was the trigger for something much deeper? What if Emma would reveal an incredible truth that would shatter everything he thought he knew? The thought lingered uneasily as he approached, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't ready for whatever revelation awaited him. Yet something in Brian stirred with an echo of hope. He felt like he might finally be on the brink of understanding, if not himself, then the entire situation with Darren, with Emma, and with their father's legacy. As he stepped through the cafe door, anticipation coiling tightly within him, he realized that the moment of truth was here, and everything was about to change once again. Brian pushed the cafe door open, the overhead bell chiming softly, signaling his entrance. The familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around him, and he let it pull him in deeper, each comforting note easing the tension in his shoulders. The quiet buzz of conversation and clinking of mugs felt like a backdrop to his racing thoughts. He scanned the room and spotted Emma seated at a small table in the corner, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her cup. When she looked up and their eyes met, it was like a jolt of electricity, a connection that ignited old memories and buried feelings. Brian felt an unexpected rush of emotion, regret, affection, and an overwhelming desire to know what was swirling behind those deep brown eyes. "Hey," he said, approaching her. He noticed a flicker of surprise in her gaze, momentarily overshadowed by something deeper: anxiety? Fear? "Hi, thanks for coming," Emma replied, her voice softer than he remembered, almost fragile. He slid into the chair across from her, acutely aware of the distance that felt both close and impossibly far. "What's on your mind?" he asked, trying to keep his tone light, though the weight of the moment pressed down on him. I've been thinking a lot about everything the past, everything we've been through." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I wanted to talk about what you shared the other day. About your dad, how you've been feeling." His heart pounded. He had opened up in ways he hadn't imagined, and now, sitting in front of Emma, the rawness of it all crashed into him like a tidal wave. "Yeah, it's just I need to tell you something too," she interrupted, her words tumbling out. "When you were talking, it hit me so hard. There's something I didn't tell you, something I can't keep inside anymore." The urgency in her voice made his insides twist. "What is it?" Emma drew a deep breath, her fingers fidgeting with the napkin. "Remember when we were kids? The summer after your dad left? I was there and I saw something." Brian leaned in closer, his pulse quickening. Memories of that time were shrouded in shadows, but he remembered the confusion, the silence that followed their father's departure. "What do you mean?" "There was a conversation, something your dad said. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I think it relates to everything that's happened since." Her voice trailed off, and silence filled the space between them like a chasm. Brian felt a flicker of fear ignite in his gut. "What about my dad?" "It's not what you think. There's more to why he left. More that went on than he ever admitted." Emma shifted in her seat, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I should have told you sooner. But I was scared." "Scared of what?" The question leaped from his lips, urgency swelling in his chest. "Of how you would react, of losing you as a friend, and because it would change everything." Her gaze dropped to the table, her voice fading into a whisper. "But keeping it from you doesn't feel right anymore." The conversation felt like a fragile glass teetering on the edge of a table, and Brian's heart raced at the thought of what she might reveal next. The truth had a way of tearing down walls, and he was terrified of the pieces that would be left behind. "Emma, please, what do you mean?" He had to know. She looked up, the determination in her eyes now mingled with hesitation. "When I tell you, it could change your view of everything, of your past, your family, even of yourself." Brian felt momentarily unmoored, the ground shifting beneath him. This was the moment he had been waiting for, yet it filled him with dread. "Just say it." As Emma took a breath, The air was thick with unspoken words, and Brian felt the weight of the world settling on his shoulders. He knew that the truth she was about to unveil could alter his life forever. But would it shatter him or set him free? The truth hung in the air, palpable and suffocating, as the cafe noise faded into the background. It felt like stepping into the eye of a storm. What would be revealed next? Would he be ready for it? Emma swallowed hard, her gaze locked on Brian's. Time seemed to stretch as she wrestled with her words, her breath hitching slightly. Brian, I know your dad left when you were a kid, and that it broke you. It left this mark that shaped who you are. But there is something deeper. Something he didn't tell anyone. He leaned closer, the desperation in his heart surging. What did he say? The night before he left, I overheard him talking to your mom. They were arguing, but it wasn't just about leaving. He mentioned a secret. Something about you. Her voice trembled, each word seeming to weigh a ton. Brian's mind raced. A secret? What kind of secret? I didn't understand it at the time, but now I think he might have been talking about who you really are. What you're capable of, what you've inherited. Emma's eyes searched his, a quiet plea for him to absorb the weight of her revelation. His pulse quickened. You're not making sense. Listen, I overheard him mention that he was worried you'd find out the truth when you were older. That you'd be dangerous if you understood it completely. I thought it was just his way of justifying leaving, but... Dangerous? His heart raced, a mix of confusion and anger boiling inside him. Dangerous how? She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the coffee cup. I think he meant that there was something about your bloodline. Something about what your family is capable of. I didn't know until recently when I had a conversation with my mom, and she mentioned how she used to think your family had a legacy, something powerful and significant. Brian shook his head, overwhelmed. This sounds insane. You mean I'm somehow special because of my family? I don't even know what that means. Emma leaned in, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that shook him. I don't know exactly what it means, but it's serious. And it sounds like your dad didn't want you to be burdened by it. He thought if you knew, it would change who you are. His heart hammered wildly in his chest. Why are you telling me this now? All these years, and you waited until today? Because, Brian, I realize holding this back has weighed on me too. It was wrong to keep it. Just like it was wrong for him to hide it from you. You deserve to know your truth even if it terrifies you. A silence filled the space, heavy and thick, as Brian processed her words. The pieces were swirling in his mind, colliding with everything he thought he understood about his childhood, his family, and himself. Emma, what if this changes everything for me? He finally managed, a sense of dread creeping in. What if I'm not who I think I am? Then we figure it out together, she replied softly, her hand reaching out to touch his, grounding him amidst the whirlwind of emotions. I want to be here for you no matter what happens next. Brian's gaze shifted to their entwined hands, the warmth of her contact igniting something deep within him. It was a flicker of hope, and yet a tempest raged in his mind. The weight of this hidden past pressed against him, and he felt it pulling him toward an uncertain future. Why does knowing this matter? He asked, his voice scarcely above a whisper. Will it help me understand why he left, or who I am? I think it could unlock so much, Brian. You just need to decide if you're willing to explore it. He took a deep breath, the reality of it all sinking in. It was more than just a hidden truth about his father. It was about discovering himself, the legacy of his family, and the shadows that loomed over his past. But was he ready to confront whatever lay ahead? The unknown felt like a chasm he wasn't sure he could cross. Before he could answer, a loud crash jolted him from his thoughts. A stack of plates dropped to the floor in the cafe, drawing a wave of curious looks from around the room. Emma's eyes darted toward the noise, and then back to him. Whatever you decide, just know that I'm with you, she said with quiet resolve. The moment hung in the air, suffused with tension and possibility, as Brian wrestled with the weight of his choice. Would unraveling the truth about his family lead to freedom or destruction? He felt teetering at the edge of something vast and daunting, unsure of what lay below. One thing was clear, this was far from over. What other secrets awaited him? Brian sat in stunned silence, his mind racing with the revelation Emma had just shared. A secret about my family, about me? The words echoed in his mind, heavy and burdensome. Across the table, Emma's uncertainty mirrored his own feelings of confusion. It's a lot, I know. But Brian, it could help you understand why you felt like you've been wading through mud for so long. Why your dad left. He tried to steady his breathing, but the reality felt like a tidal wave, crashing over him. I just thought I was ordinary. Just Brian. The nobody who fixed cars in a garage. Emma leaned forward, earnestness etched on her face. But you're not nobody. You feel this passion for restoration not just of cars, but of yourself. Maybe there's more to your legacy than you realize. The cafe's noise faded to a dull hum around him. Brian's thoughts were a distorted cacophony of feelings: fear, hope, and a flicker of understanding. What if I really am different? The idea scares me. And it should, Emma admitted gently. But it's not in the differences that define you. It's in how you choose to use them. You get to shape how the story unfolds. You can choose to rise above. The tension in Brian's chest relaxed just a little. Finally, it dawned on him that this wasn't just about digging into the past. It was a chance to take control of his future. Maybe knowing more about my family could be the key to understanding myself, the version of me I want to build. A faint smile danced on Emma's lips. Exactly. Imagine this could fuel your passion, give you direction. But you have to be willing to confront it. He looked into her eyes, where determination shone like a beacon guiding him through the murky waters of his doubt. Just then, another crash echoed through the cafe, pulling him from his thoughts. A couple of servers were clearing up the plates that had fallen. With each loud clatter, Brian felt an odd sense of urgency. This was life, chaotic, unpredictable, but alive. He could let past mistakes and family legacy keep him in the corner, or step out and embrace the unknown. Emma, what if I could choose how this unfolds? He said, a surge of resolve pushing through. What if uncovering the truth could bring clarity? Or help put together pieces I didn't even know were missing? I think that's exactly the journey you need to take, she replied, her eyes brightening. Brian nodded, feeling a fire ignite inside. I'm ready. I want to face this head on. Whatever it means, I'll embrace it. I want to honor my family and finally start figuring out who I really am. Then we'll do this together. I'll be right by your side, Emma promised, squeezing his hand reassuringly. As they sat in the cafe, a warmth spread through him at the possibility of embarking on this new chapter together. The clatter of plates gradually faded away, transitioning into laughter and chatter as the atmosphere lightened. He could almost feel the weight of regret lifting, like a shadow that had been trailing him had begun to dissolve. Let's set a plan, Emma said, finally releasing his hand. We can start researching, digging into your family's past. Maybe visit local archives, find old family records, whatever it takes to uncover the truth. Exactly, he replied, enthused. And we can share it at the workshop, bring others in on the journey. Who knows? Maybe a community coming together can make it stronger. That's the spirit. Emma grinned, her excitement infectious. Their conversation flowed seamlessly, ideas bouncing back and forth like a vibrant conversation they'd had many times before. Brian felt alive, dreams unfurling like wings ready to take flight. But still his heart thumped at the thought of confronting Darren. Fear danced in his stomach at the possible reactions from his brother, at others, even at himself. I need to talk to Darren about this, he said suddenly. He needs to know. Are you ready? Emma asked, quiet concern in her voice. I have to be, he replied with newfound certainty. He's my brother. We've been through so much. If I can face the past, I can face him. We have to understand each other, join together to piece this puzzle. I believe you, she replied softly. But be gentle. It might take him time to come around. Just don't lose sight of why this matters. Your support means everything, he said, feeling a mixture of gratitude and determination. It's time for openness. Time to embrace this new journey. In that cafe, amidst the bustling world around him, Brian felt a pivotal shift. It was scary, yes, but anticipation surged brighter than his fears. He was no longer just Brian, the factory worker or the ridiculed boy. He was Brian, the restorer of cars, dreams, and relationships. As they finished their coffee, the sun began to dip lower in the sky. Brian took a deep breath, feeling the world around him settle into a rhythm that mirrored his heart. Change was here. He was ready to embrace it, even if it meant diving into the unknown. "Let us do this," he declared, a bright smile breaking on his face. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he wouldn't walk alone. As Brian stepped out of the cafe and into a brighter future, he felt a wordless promise settle within him. He would restore not only forgotten engines, but the bonds that shaped him. And in that moment, he knew this was just the beginning. Before long, the challenges would test him, but he also felt a fierce hope sparking like a flame, lit by the truth of love and an unwavering commitment to embrace the journey ahead. Now, if you felt inspired by Brian's incredible transformation, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't wait not even one more second. Hit that bell for notifications so you never miss exclusive stories like this. And if this touched your heart, leave a like now. Your support fuels the algorithm. Every click makes a difference. Finally, comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. How do you feel about Brian's journey? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Spread hope and inspiration like wildfire.